Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Welcome to the show. I'm Lisa Williams. Today, my guest is a millennial that has transformed the reputation of personal finances into a social experience by making it engaging, trendy, and easy to understand. Dominique Broadway is an award-winning personal financial expert, speaker, money therapist, and the founder of Finances Demystified and the Social Money Tour. Dominique began her work at a major brokerage at the ripe age of 21. At the age of 28, she was named one of the top financial advisors in the United States for millennials. Dominique has received various accolades such as the top 30 under 30 in Washington, D.C., and the D.C. Future Business Leader of America Businessperson of the Year Award. Dominique's financial advice has been highlighted on Yahoo, Huffington Post, Forbes, USA Today, Black Enterprise, MarketWatch.com, Ebony Magazine, and other media outlets. She has a strong passion for working with young professionals, entrepreneurs, and people of all ages to bring their dreams to reality. Dominique is a proud alumni of Bowie State University, where she received her Bachelor's of Business Administration with a focus on banking and finance. She went on to receive her Master's of Science in Financial Management from the University of Maryland College. Dominique speaks around the country, sharing her entrepreneurial story, financial expertise, and words of wisdom to college and universities such as Georgetown, Howard University, University of Maryland, amongst others, and corporations such as NBC Universal and numerous nonprofits. Please welcome to the show, Dominique Broadway.
Thanks for having me.
We're glad to have you. Well, let's get started. Today, we're going to talk about the growing number of Black women in business, how we've evolved, and what it'll take to help African American women in business run successful businesses. Let's get started. Black women have always had an entrepreneurial spirit. From our great-grandmothers who cleaned houses for a living and sold fish dinners at churches, to the many African American women who rose to the tops of their industries, including Michelle Obama, the first African American First Lady of the United States, Sheila C. Johnson, founder of BET, becoming the first African American woman billionaire, Oprah Winfrey, having the #1 daytime talk show in America, Serena Williams, #1 in women's singles tennis, Janice Bryant, owner of the largest minority woman-owned employment agency in the United States, and Ursula Burns, the first African American woman CEO of a Fortune 500 company. And of course, the list goes on and on. In fact, according to the 2015 State of Women-Owned Business Report, the number of women-owned businesses grew by 74% between 1997 and 2015. The report also stated that 33% of women-owned firms are owned by minority women, and Black females are amongst the fastest growing group of entrepreneurs in the U.S. It's wonderful to know that African American women entrepreneurs are the fastest growing segment of entrepreneurs in the U.S. What a great statistic. So it's important that we don't let this momentum die. Now, more than ever, African American women entrepreneurs need resources available to help them not just be in business, but grow in business. The biggest hurdle African American women business owners face is that many are first-generation entrepreneurs, and they lack exposure to other Black women in business that have successful businesses from which they can glean habits and proven processes from. Let's look at an example of just how important having a role model accessible to you can be. Here's what Jessica Alba, actress and CEO of The Honest Company, said about having someone that you can call on.
As far as mentors go, countless. I was not shy about making phone calls to many people. I've been fortunate enough to know people like Tory Burch and Diane von Furstenberg, and they, got lots of emails and phone calls from me along the way with tears in my eyes saying, I don't know if this is possible. Why is everyone telling me no? What do I do? What does it even mean to get venture capital? What is venture capital? What's a board? Like, I just didn't know all these business terms. And so they helped me understand it. And it's nice having women that you can look to and rely on.
Incidentally, her husband, Cash Warren, a Yale graduate, producer, and tech investor, introduced Jessica to his childhood friend, Brian Lee, an entrepreneur who co-founded LegalZoom. And the women Jessica reached out to, Tory Burch, who is a New York fashion designer, and Diane von Furstenberg, who is a billion-dollar fashion designer. Unfortunately, most African-American women don't have the same access and connections that Jessica Alba was blessed with. Black female entrepreneurs need a supportive network of African-American women business owners that we can learn from. It's time to talk, share, and provide resources and roadmaps to Black women in business. We need successful mentors to inspire African-American women on their journey in business. I have lined up a variety of successful, prominent, and leading African-American women in business across many industries to share their paths and secrets to their success. They will discuss their journey not only as women in business, but more importantly, how they grew successful businesses in spite of the unique challenges faced by African-American women business owners. Forgive my cloudy voice, but the show must go on. So let's get into the show.
So my first question is, how do you feel about being a part of this historical time for African-American women in business?
I think it's honestly, it's pretty amazing, I have to say. I was telling someone earlier, actually, just how blessed I am to be, or fortunate I am to be alive during this time at this age, and to be doing what I feel as though God's purpose for me to do, and to actually be able to make a living from it and live the life that I desire. So it's pretty amazing to be able to, create something from scratch, have people trust you, and also be able to actually, impact other people's lives based on the knowledge and the passion that you have. So it's pretty amazing, I have to say.
Yes, indeed. I agree. So a good story isn't a good story until we can understand where you started. So tell us, how'd you get started in business?
Well, I started out, as you mentioned, I went to Bowie State University, historically Black college, and I majored in banking and finance. And I always knew that I wanted to be in the personal finance space, ever since I was in high school. Because I realized that, just after reading a bunch of magazines, I always wanted to be rich, never wanted to be famous type of thing. And I was just trying to figure out, how did the rich get rich? How are they making their money? How are they able to do all these awesome trips and things like that and not have to physically be at work every day? And I realized the one thing that most rich people had in common, or wealthy people had in common, is that they all invested in the stock market. Mm-hmm. And so once I figured that out, I just kind of started doing a bunch of research and talking to my parents about it. And to mind you, my parents didn't really invest in the stock market or anything outside of like their retirement plans. They didn't really know anything about it. And my grandfather knew a little bit about it. He would just kind of sit down and show me his thrift savings plan, because he worked for the federal government, and just kind of show me the different investments that he had in there. And it kind of sparked me to do a lot more research. And once I started doing more research, I realized that I wanted to major in banking and finance. Once I was in school, I think God opened the door, even though I had an extremely low GPA in college, because I thought it was a waste of time, honestly. I had like a 2.3 GPA, and I still ended up managing, I guess with my gift of gab, to get an internship at UBS Financial Services, which was one of the largest wealth management firms in the world at the time, and still is. And I was actually able to start working with clients that had $20-30 million in investable assets. And once I finished that internship, I got offered a full-time job in New York, and I decided I wanted to stay in Maryland. So I, got that job here. Before I graduated, bought my first house at 22, because I'd always been extremely frugal, did a lot of investing in college with the money that I did have. And that's basically how my career started. And when I started working in the investment field, it was really interesting, because that's when the market was tanking. I mean, people were losing millions of dollars a day. The stock market was shutting down, because,
and
the
people were
losses were
stressed
so
out.
drastic. Yes, I mean it was very stressful, and it's interesting because that's that's when I started out. I mean that's all I knew. Every day the market was bad, and so it was a really unique experience to get into the market. Even a lot of our clients were victims of Bernie Madoff. I mean it was an extremely interesting and priceless experience. And after working at that firm and a couple other firms throughout the years, I realized that I loved personal finance and I still wanted to be in that space, but I just didn't want to do it for the uber wealthy. The clients that we had, they had $20-30 million, in assets. They were, buying Saddam Hussein's watches, spending $200,000 a year just to board their horses throughout the year. And, it was a really priceless experience to see how the uber wealthy are able to, handle their investments and handle how they, create generational wealth, but also how they're able to, to reduce their taxable income. Like I said, buying watches from Saddam Hussein. I mean, it's a whole nother world. And after seeing all that and having my friends start coming to me and saying, hey, I know you're in finance. Can you help me with my finances? And I'm just like, no, I can't, because you need at least $1 million to come up in here, like literally. And I had to keep saying that. And after a while, I realized like, this isn't what I want to do. It's what I want to do, but I want to do it for who I want to do it for. So let me
ask you this, Dominique. Yeah. So what made you feel like you didn't want to continue doing that for the uber wealthy?
Well, like I said, it was really just because a lot of my friends kept coming to me for advice and I couldn't help them. People who I knew who, they didn't have, like, you had to have $1 million to become a client at these firms. Okay. Some of the advisors required you to have $5 million. And I just felt like even though, there were so many people out there who needed help, I didn't have that much money, but, it's kind of silly to walk around helping all these people who already have money when there's all these other people that do not have the money. But if they had the advice and exposure to the knowledge, they could possibly get there. So I decided that I was going to, everyone else, all the other financial advisors were going after the top 1%. And I figured that I would just go after the other 99% of America because that's a pretty large market.
Yes, indeed.
That's basically how and why I started.
So who do you work with specifically and how do you help them?
So right now, I focus specifically on millennials, entrepreneurs, and creatives. And I focus on that group, like I said, because, they're the ones that financial advisors won't take the time to sit down and speak with. And some of the things that I do for them, when working with individual clients is, helping them with every single aspect of their financial life. So I tell them anything with their name and a dollar sign on it, I can help them with. It comes from, budgeting, saving, spending, buying their first home, investing, retirement planning, their credit, goal setting, whatever it may be. And with millennials, we're not the generation that wants to save up, that wants to work for 50, for 40 years and then start living at 65. We're the generation that wants to have the lifestyle now. Instead of waiting. So I do a lot of lifestyle design with the finances that you have. And that's a lot of the things that I kind of do with my clients currently. And then outside of the individual clients, I work a lot with, nonprofits, corporations, going into their organizations and doing, like workplace financial planning, but also a lot of universities, tons of public speaking. So it's been really great so far.
Excellent. So, Dominique, what's a problem, real or perceived, even a myth, that entrepreneurs have about their finances, investing, and living the life that they want to live?
I think one of the biggest myths that I've seen is I think a lot of times entrepreneurs think that, okay, I have a great idea, and that's all you need. Like, I have a great idea, I'll get a fancy website, and people will come. And that's not the case. And I think that a lot of times entrepreneurs they put so much time into their idea, they don't put enough time into lead generation, into prospecting, into selling. And for some reason, being in sales is probably one of the more frowned upon careers. No one wants to be sold to. People hate telemarketers. But if no one's out there selling, you're not going to make any money, right? So as an entrepreneur, it's extremely important that, you're out there and you're constantly selling. And I think that a lot of times entrepreneurs just don't put enough time into that to create the sales that are needed to, to create the lifestyle they desire.
So basically they believe build it and they'll come.
Exactly, and that is not true.
No,
it will
it's
not
not.
come. No, and no one cares about what you build. So it's like you have to do, put your energy in to get the people there,
Yeah. And do you find with entrepreneurs that they feel they don't have any money to invest because they're always kind of reinvesting back in their business or kind of trying to live off of the money that they've made?
No, I mean, I think entrepreneurs don't prepare in advance to become an entrepreneur. I think a lot of times people don't, I guess kind of like don't take the time to financially prepare to make that leap. And so they're not, I don't know if they're not having enough money, if they're not investing enough or, into themselves. I mean, I think there's two parts. I think that marketing is one of those things that people just don't budget for, if that makes sense. Like, I don't know. I don't know. They just feel like, oh, I'm going to make this thing and people will just magically hear about it and start running towards me. And that's not the case, and then also people are, they are scared to invest in themselves. Even if that's just getting a business coach or taking a class at a university about sales, people just aren't, I don't know if people are just too cocky or what, but you still have to put in that legwork to get the people there to buy whatever you're selling.
Right. And for an entrepreneur that is making some money and they're thinking, you know what, I don't have a retirement plan, what types of things do you set up for them, early in their entrepreneurial walk that they can afford to begin to make investments?
Yeah, so there's a couple different things you can do. One of them, obviously rolling over whatever 401k or thrift savings plan or 403b that you had from your, previous job. But you can, in addition to that, you can set up, a Roth IRA. It's based on your income. You can set up a traditional IRA. You also have a SEP IRA that you can contribute to. You can even set up a individual 401k that's just for you if you don't have employees yet. But I think it's really important and critical to make sure that you're still saving for retirement. And most entrepreneurs, once they're starting their business or even growing their business, they're not making effort at all to save for retirement. So I think it's really critical to still be putting money aside, even if it's just to a general savings account, just to make sure you have that money later on, depending on whatever the exit strategy for your business. If you're hoping to get bought out by Google or you're hoping to get bought out from some other company or sell it to just a random Joe or whatever, you have to have some sort of, exit strategy, even if it's, hey, I'm going to grow this business and give it to my kids. That's the exit strategy, right? So you want to kind of think what the end result will be.
Right. Great tip there. And one last question before we delve into being specifically an African-American woman in business.
Okay.
There's a lot of confusion out there. There's a lot of financial advisors out there, and Tony Robbins and his new book kind of demystifying how, what type of advisor you should work with. Can you kind of just sum it up so people can understand what type of advisor you are and how you differ from others?
Yeah, so there's a lot of different types of advisors, and I'll just kind of go over some of the different types of ones really quickly. There's, more of a, traditional financial advisor where you don't pay them anything, but they get paid by recommending certain products and services to you. So example, you go to them, you don't pay them anything to sit down with them, but they're going to recommend products and services to you and they get a commission for it, right? Then there's also financial advisors who are considered more money managers or wealth managers. And you may or may not pay them a fee, just depends on how they work. But you need to have money to sit down with them. And they're looking for you to have, usually minimum $250,000. And that's how they make money, by charging management fees on that money. Then there's also what we call fee-based financial planners, is what more kind of more what I am. And basically what it is, you're charged a fee to work with a financial planner. And people like that best because, one, you're not required to have any assets. And two, you know that any recommendations that this financial planner is recommending for you, they're not getting any commission from it. So they're not just recommending things based on how much money how much money they will make. They're making recommendations based on what they feel like you need, in your life to reach your financial goals. So that's kind of the difference between the different types of financial advisors and the type of advisor that I am.
And what are the other two called? You're called a fee-based financial advisor?
Yeah, so I would be more like a fee-based financial advisor or financial coach. There's wealth managers who manage the wealth that you have or manage the cash or assets or investments that you have. And then there's just more of a traditional financial advisor that's commission-based.
I see. Okay. And I would assume working with you as a fee-based financial advisor, you want to make our money grow so we can come back and spend more money with you.
Yeah. I mean, most of my clients actually, they stick around for years. We charge my goal has been to make financial planning as affordable as a gym membership. So we charge a low monthly fee to stick around, to continue that planning and coaching relationship. And it's something that's very affordable in my business. And that's, why I did it, because I want it to be affordable. And, the more that we help people reach their goals, they want to stick around because, financial planning isn't something that happens one time. It's something that changes over time. There's always different things and life experiences and events that you need financial guidance for.
Excellent. So let's jump in and talk about being an African-American woman in business. And let's talk about your past and what it's been like as you've navigated your entrepreneurship. So, Dominique, what can you share with other women, business women, about starting, staying, and sticking it through to reach a level of success in their business?
Wow. I think starting, staying, and sticking it through. I think, being an African American woman in business it's a little bit more difficult than if you were anyone else.
It is. And why do you say that?
Well, I say that from my own personal experiences and also just from experiences of a lot of my close friends. Just me being a woman in finance. I mean, even when I started out, I was, maybe the only maybe one of two or one of three African American people in the office, and the other two were receptionists. So I was like the only one that was actually, working on the financial side of things. So, when it came to, areas or times for advancement opportunities, I was constantly overlooked. And that's another reason that I started my business. But outside of that, I mean, I do tons of public speaking. I mean, I've spoke to, low-income individuals. I spoke to, people who just raised, $7 to $10 million for their startups. And, I was at an event one time actually, and it was a startup entrepreneur event. And, most of the people there had some sort of but a technology startup, and had raised money for their startup, or, was in the process of raising money for their startup. And I was doing a workshop on managing your money, kind of like as an entrepreneur. And it was maybe like 100 people in the room. And literally when I stood up to actually start teaching the class, because they didn't know who the instructor was, it was like five, like Caucasian men that just walked out. Literally.
Wow.
Yeah. And it was interesting. And I knew why they did. It wasn't, it wasn't because they knew what the class was, and they just didn't like the instructor, And I mean, I understand I look young, but it didn't faze me, because the one thing my mom always told me when I first started my business, that if there's one person in the room or if there's 300 people in the room, you have to, you still have to do your best and give them, the message that they deserve, because they're there. Right. And so, just seeing those types of things, and I know I'm smart. I know my stuff. And the people that were there, they were able to get that. But I didn't, I never let that bother me, but I knew why they walked out.
And I appreciate you sharing that. Yeah. I mean, this is what this interview is about, and how we keep pressing past those types of gender and racial inequalities and unfairness.
Yeah, and it's like one of those things that people feel like, oh, we're past that. Like, no, we're not. Like, these things they still happen, and yes, we're not in the 50s anymore, but these things are still going on in different type of fashions. And, so I think those are just some of the things that, maybe somebody else, it would have hindered them. It didn't hinder me. I mean, that's just a couple people that didn't like how it looked, whatever. But, I'm still going to get up there and do the thing. Look, they paid me to be here. I'm going to be here. I'm going to deliver. And the other 100 people that are in the room, they learned tons. And so, those are just some of the things that I felt like I've dealt with. And I know even, one of my good friends who has an amazing, technology startup who, she won, a huge startup competition as one of like the upcoming startups of the year. And, the technology that she has, if she was a white male, she would have probably raised almost $50 million by now. And the interesting thing is, because I'm one of her good friends, as she was going through the process, people were almost telling her without telling her, like, hey, if you were a white man, you would have been raised the money that you needed, and it took her way long just to raise the $2.5 million that she raised, in 2 years. And now she's finally closing another round of $5 million. But the funny thing, I mean, it literally, if she was anybody else or looked different, she would have honestly raised probably at least 20 to 30 million by now, just based on the software and the, intellectual property that she has, the patents and trademarks and everything. I mean, this is brand new, technology. And so I've just seen it happen, not just with me, but also with other friends in the different type of industries. But, it's harder, but I mean, it's life. I mean, you don't let stuff like that stop you. You still have to continue with your mission and your purpose. And, I'm here to help people. There's a couple people that may not like me. Who cares, So
yeah,
that's just life. So, yeah.
That's great advice. Yeah. So, I mean, really, you just shared one of those situations that were hard. But
yeah,
do you have another one? I mean, something that was really hard for you? You kind of walked through that one. But can you share something that was really hard, very challenging, a challenging time in your business, and how you got past it?
Yeah. So, I mean, being an entrepreneur, I mean, as they say, you got to be crazy to be one. And I guess I'll take a little crazy. But, when I quit my job, I just quit my job. I didn't have a business on the side because as a licensed financial advisor, you can't have like outside business activities that do something similar. And so, if I was working any other field, I could have, started my own business. Or started the business I have now while doing another, while currently working. So I just quit my job. I didn't have a business or anything started. And because of that, because I kind of quit and then decided 3 months later, like, oh, I'm going to start this business, I went through tons of financial difficulties, which were just extremely stressful, extremely hard for me. And it was really because, one, I started my business without having another business in place. 2, because I started my business and did not have any processes or systems or pricing in place. So when I started my business, I said, hey, I'm literally called my friend. I was like, you know what? I'm going to start this finance company. I just went ahead and bought a booth at for Sisters Only. I paid $1,000 for the booth. Can you help me design like a website real quick? Because I'm doing this event this weekend. Literally, this is how I started. And so he was like, okay. And so he created a logo for me. He created just a one-page landing site so I could collect emails. He created business cards, things of that nature. My best friend came down from New Jersey, helped me work the booth. I had about 95 people that signed up to become clients to get on my email list, and I probably made maybe a third of clients, which sounds great, like a great way to kickstart your business. However, as I mentioned, I hadn't thought the business through. I just knew that I had financial advice, and I was trying to give it to people that looked like me. That was the goal. Right. And I had no pricing, I had no systems, I had no processes, I had nothing. So I was just charging people whatever they could afford. And if people couldn't afford to work with me, I would work with them for free. And because of that, I went broke. I mean, literally went broke. I had about a year's worth of my salary saved up before I started. And within a year, I went completely broke because I wasn't making enough money to cover my bills. My house went into foreclosure, almost lost my car. And I was able to thank God I didn't lose anything, but able to bounce back from all of that. So what I hope people take from that is when you decide to start a business, you may be like me, and I'm a true entrepreneur where I'm a starter. I'm just a starter. Let's just do this. Let's just do this now. But you really want to make sure that at least, look, if you're going to do it that way, that's fine. But just at least to make sure you take some time to set down some prices and maybe put some sort of system and process that you can avoid it. And then also it was hard for me too, because I've always been so financially smart. Like I said, I bought my first house at 22 before I even graduated college. Always had tons of money saved up, and I always knew what to do financially. But when I went through this difficult time, I was feeling almost like an imposter, because I was literally walking around helping everybody. Okay. I mean, I was helping everybody buy their first house, helping people start saving, set up retirement accounts, and I couldn't even help myself. And it was just because I was like embarrassed. I was embarrassed. I didn't want to tell anyone. And then, I mean, it was like literally like I'm walking around like I am a walking, talking, like lie. Like literally. And then,
your candor. No, that's great.
Yeah. No, I mean, I literally
it's
felt
real.
that way. It is. And it's real life. And it's something that, we've all been there where you're ashamed. I just remember my grandma telling me one time, like, you've always been that golden child. I'm the first child that went to college, and I went to private school. I was always just on top and academically amazing. And, she's like, you have family that's waiting for you to fail. They're literally waiting for you to fail. And so I just always remembered my grandma telling me that. So I was like, well, I'm not going to tell them what I'm going through because I'm going to let everyone down. I'm going to disappoint everyone. And so, so I didn't. And then after a while, I just kind of hit within, and I'm like, Mom, I got to tell you what's going on. Like, they're not great,
And unfortunately, in our community, we got to get better about making it comfortable for our friends, for our sisters, for our children to come to us and say, I hit a tough spot.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and not be judged, and I knew this was going to happen, and blah, blah, blah.
But the crazy thing is this, that when I went to my mom, when I went to my dad, when I went to my grandparents, I'm really close to my grandparents, they did not judge me at all. They weren't disappointed. All they said was, I wish you had told us earlier. We could have helped you, And they did. They were able to help me. But it was like, silly me. I've been hiding this all this time.
Yes.
And I didn't tell anyone. And I sat down with my grandfather, and I've always called him, he's my financial advisor. And we sat there and we handled everything. We, contacted credit cards, the mortgage companies, like everything. And I got everything fixed. And it was so funny because this is the thing that I was literally sitting down and helping everybody else with. And I couldn't help myself.
Why you had to go through that, right? You had to go through that so that you could truly have a different compassion and empathy for people having experienced it yourself.
I know, and that's the part that I loved about it, because I went through this whole phase and I was like hating God and like, why would you, like, I know, like, God, you made me start this company and now you're going to put me here. Like, I'm literally angry. And now I know, like, okay, I went through this experience. Now I have a story, and now I have some of the best education that I've ever gotten in my entire life, outside of this bachelor's and master's and all these other degrees. This was some of the best education I've ever gotten. And I also feel like, I'm 31 now, but I feel like that time in my life, I really turned into a woman, to me. Yeah. Like, I really became a woman and an adult. But yeah, that's, if you want another tough story, that's one.
That was a wonderful tough story. Thank you so much for sharing that.
You're
know
welcome.
that's gonna help somebody for sure.
Good. I love it. Good. I hope so. But even in the moment, you feel like it's really tough. But I mean, you do make it through. That's the crazy part.
Yes, you do. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
We have other Black women that have accomplished great successes, like those I mentioned earlier. Others such as Taraji P. Henson, Kamala Harris, Shonda Rhimes, and countless others. You kind of started doing that, but can you share a nugget to help women that are just starting a business?
Yeah, I think I would say if you're just starting, I think the first thing that you really want to do, a lot of people are in the conference I just left is actually about firing your boss. Is that I really hope that women take the time to understand how much knowing your numbers and really knowing how much it costs, to run yourself. So how much do you need your business to do revenue-wise so that you don't get in that same situation that I was in, right? And I think that a lot of times women and people in general, when they're starting their business, they don't think about that. They don't think about how much revenue do I need to bring in to be comfortable. And obviously you want to double, triple, and quadruple that. But what is that minimum amount? So I would just say really take the time to know how much do you need to bring in to be happy, and to be comfortable and to continue the life that you desire.
That's great. And it's almost like the things to think about that you don't know to think about.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. No one's thinking about that. They're just thinking about starting a business. No one's thinking about like the financial part of things. So, yeah.
And so what would you say is most important to have a successful business?
I think one of the most important things is doing something that you're passionate about, because when you're an entrepreneur, there's days where you're literally like, why? Why am I doing this? It is so much easier just to get up and go to a 9 to 5,
Sure is.
But if you remember your why and it's something that you're passionate about, you will wake up every day, if you're making money or not, and still be super excited and passionate about it. And I think that's key when you're starting a business. You can't start something. I mean, I see people all the time who do various multi-level marketing things and stuff like that because they see, oh, look at that person. They have a Bentley and they make $100,000 a month. Like yes, they do that, right? But that's a long way away. Are you down to put in the time and effort that they had to put into to get there? And most people aren't. So start something that isn't a fad. Start something that you're comfortable with, you're passionate about, something that you're okay with possibly waking up and doing for the next 15 years without hating.
I love it. And funny that you use the number 15. So the next question is, if you, Dominique, could share something with your younger self, let's say 15 years ago, about being in business, what would it be?
Oh, I think it would be, two things. One would be start now. I wish I had started
That
sooner.
means you would have been 15, sweetheart, because you're kind of young.
Yeah, but the interesting thing is, so one of my first businesses I actually had at 15. I started a company with one of my friends. It was called Kid Interactive Data Systems. And what we did was we taught students about how to use the computer. And we ended up educating, probably over 1,000 students in like the 2 years that we had our business. And we made really great money from it, which was crazy. Until the school system started teaching kids in school and it kind of messed us up. But essentially, even then, I started then, and I think what I would have told myself even at 15, I wish I had started something in the personal finance space then. The business that we had was great, but it was one of those things that, just like a lot of things that, things change and you get tapped out. But outside of that, maybe because I am so young, another thing that I wish I had told myself even, at 22 and 23 or 24 or 25 when I was going through my quarter life crisis is that it's okay that, it's okay that things aren't going as planned. I had this lofty goal by myself, buy my first house at 22, buy at least 10 more houses by 25, become a millionaire. That was the goal, and it didn't happen. And I used to beat myself up about it. And I think that, I tell myself and I tell the people all the time, like, it's okay if life does not go as planned. The funny thing is, a lot of times things don't go as planned, but the cool thing about it is that it's because God usually has a better plan for you. The things that I'm doing now are way better than whatever I could have ever imagined for myself, ever. The lifestyle that I live now, I never even pictured this. And so, it's okay. It's okay that things don't go as planned. I think people need to know that. Yeah.
Great share.
Yeah.
So, as I explained in the introduction, one of the greatest challenges African American women face in business is the lack of successful Black women role models in our community. So, let's talk specifically now about the unique challenges African American women business owners face. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to briefly go over 6 or 7 different categories, and I'm sure you can probably relate to all of them, but listen and see which one jumps out at you, and then if you would share your experience, that'd be great. So the first is family. They didn't understand your entrepreneurial walk. Role models, just like the example with Jessica Alba. Many of us don't have, top fashion designers to call on. Yeah. That would actually take our call and talk to us while we're crying.
Exactly.
Right. Business knowledge and knowledge of business terms. Typically, we don't start off knowing that as African American women. Seeking capital. Wow, that's a whole new area in general for many people, but there's a larger learning curve for African Americans and African American women.
Yeah.
Juggling being a single parent or a single woman. I mean, that's tough, no matter what the color lines are, but specifically even tougher because there are so many single African American women and single moms.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lacking relationships is another one. Investing in ourselves. Typically, we don't attend seminars and personal development seminars to help us become better us, a better us. And the last one is volunteering. Unfortunately, we tend to only see volunteering within the confines of church, the church setting, and us volunteering. We don't typically, as African Americans, grow up in our families, serving the homeless or working for free, volunteering for nonprofits. Unfortunately, that doesn't tend to be in our upbringing and culture. So did any of those stand out for you and that you can speak to that you may have been challenged with?
I would say maybe 2 stuck out. I think one is having those, people to call on and resources. I mean, I was really fortunate and blessed that both of my parents were entrepreneurs. But still, I feel like in today's times, things are different. The way they started their businesses and the ways that they marketed their business, it would have been great to have more people to call into. And I had some amazing mentors that I had to kind of go out and get on my own, which was amazing. But it would have been even better to have people in my family, that, I could have called on to, but also, I think another one was being a single woman. I think, I was reading an article about this, earlier, and it was basically saying like, as a single woman, our time is valuable too. And I think a lot of times people act like, oh, you don't have a husband, you don't have a child, you have all the time in the world, almost like your time isn't as valuable. Or that we should have just tons more time. And, we're working just as hard. And yes, we may not have anyone to take care of, but, don't discount us because of that, Yeah. And I've seen that happen a lot. And outside of that, also being a single woman and having men take you seriously professionally. Half the time they're trying to date you and you're just trying to do a business deal, I mean, I've literally had people who I've gone to business meetings and at the end of the meeting I get an email and they're like, I would love to take you to dinner. Like, no, can we just keep this professional? I mean, I've literally had people say, whatever you need in your business, I'll give you the money. I can send you money every month. Like, I can put you in a place. Like, literally, this is stuff you hear on TV. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, wow. What you took from this meeting and what I took from this meeting was completely opposite, And so, it's a whole nother battle. And I feel like that alone is one of those things that a lot of people don't even talk about, just trying to be taken seriously as a young, Black, obviously attractive, professional woman. Like, right. And so it's like, I'm here for a meeting. I'm not trying to become your woman, Right. And then men are also, everyone's trying to become part of a power couple. And they're like, we could totally be a power couple. Like, no, I just want to do this one deal with you. I don't want to be a power couple, So it's like a whole nother thing, and it's something that, like I said, a lot of times as single women, we almost get, the bad rap, like, oh, you're single, you don't have to worry about anything. Like, no, we don't have 2-income households. Whatever we make, our stuff, our money is our money. There's no one we can call, if there's a bad financial month, Yeah, there's no lean back. So, sometimes it actually may be a little bit more difficult. Not saying more difficult than a single parent, but it can be more difficult sometimes in those
different
aspects.
Challenges,
so
different set of challenges.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. So you said that you grew up in an entrepreneurial environment, and you made reference to something really good because, and that's part of the purpose of this interview series. Women today dealing with what we're dealing with today as entrepreneurs. Because unfortunately, when we look at or talk to an entrepreneur that had a business 10 years ago, 15 years ago, like you said, there's different challenges. So having an example and a role model that you can call on today in today's times and navigate challenges and situations, it makes a difference.
Yeah, it does.
It really does.
It really does. Yeah.
I think the basis for you, though, seeing your parents have entrepreneurial ventures, it probably helped you in some way, though. Would you agree?
Oh, yeah. It helped me greatly. My dad was an entrepreneur. My mom was an entrepreneur. My stepfather was also an entrepreneur. So even growing up, just seeing my mom and my stepdad on a daily basis, having an extremely flexible work schedule. Like my parents were never getting up in the morning and rushing off to work. It was always, mornings were very casual. I was sometimes late to school because just because they were so lax in the morning. And so that really helped. And I loved seeing their lifestyle, and I knew that that's how I wanted my life to be. But also outside of that, just seeing even my stepfather and my mom grow their businesses, it was priceless, and it was just something that I realized that I wanted to do versus, seeing some of my other family members. I live in the Washington, D.C. area, so a lot of my family members work for the federal government, and the weird thing is, that's like the ideal job to have in this area. And for me, I was the weird one who was like, one of my biggest fears was having to work for the federal government. And only because, and there's nothing wrong with it because I have a lot of friends who do so, but some of my family members who work for the federal government, they almost seem like drones or robots. Like they go to work every day, come home, complain about it. They lived for Saturday and Sunday, and then Monday they were just doing the same thing. And I was just like, as a kid, like, that cannot be adult life. That just can't be. And then you're waiting to get your little, I don't even know how much time you get for leave, 2 weeks or whatever. So you have 2 weeks of vacation. Like, that's crazy to me. And so I was so scared of becoming that person. I was petrified of becoming that person. So, it was, thank God, oh my gosh, thank God that I had parents who were entrepreneurs and I could see that because I couldn't even imagine my life being the other way.
I can relate. I come from a family of my sisters and both of my parents, all state employees, city employees. So I know what you're saying. I come from a different side of things. I'm the youngest, and they kind of look at me like, "What are you doing?"
Like you're the crazy one, probably.
You're the crazy. Yeah. But they're supportive. They're supportive. But it is another. It's another lifestyle that. I don't understand theirs as much as I could, and they don't understand mine as much as they could, but together we're
And it's a very unfamiliar lifestyle for the, African American culture versus other cultures. It's, it's more common.
Yeah, I like that. Unfamiliar lifestyle. So true. So there are articles online about entrepreneurs and their success stories and the challenges they had to overcome. But there are very few about current day women. And when I say current day women, I'm not talking about the celebrities and all the press that they get, but everyday women holding it down. Financial advisors like yourself, tax consultants, attorneys, coaches. There's some really successful everyday women, so to speak, that, have gone through things. And there's not articles out there, specific articles sharing what African American businesswomen have gone through to grow successful businesses. So my question to you, Dominique, is what did you do when you got stuck, overwhelmed, ran out of money? You told us about ran out of money, or possibly felt like quitting. Did you ever feel like quitting?
Oh, yeah. All the time.
And what'd you do?
Even now, some days. Yeah, it's interesting. Literally, I was just, literally was talking about this on the panel. Like, you know, one of my good friends, you know, he has a really successful business. You know, he finally is making over $2 million a year. And I was just like, asking him, like, do you still feel like you want to quit all the time? He's like, yeah. And then I went and met with some other entrepreneurs, and they probably do maybe $20 million a year. And they were sharing the same thing. Like, I was like, do you guys ever feel like you want to quit, or you still have those anxiety attacks at night? And they're like, yeah. And so I realized that no matter where you are financially, you still have those attacks. But for me, I think it's, you know, when I want to quit, it's not often anymore that I want to quit. I'm too far in. But in the beginning, when I did want to quit every now and then, even every now and then you have a day, like, I'll just go get a job. You think about the fact that if you do get a job, you probably have to be there from 9 to 5. And to me, that would be like going back to jail. Yeah. And so, and being that I don't want to go to jail, for me, I think when I first started, it was really just surrounding myself with other friends who are entrepreneurs. And I have a lot of friends who are entrepreneurs who, when any of us are having a bad day, we can call each other, and that's all we need. We just need that team to say, you know, girl, what are you talking about? You're awesome. Shut up. You're not quitting. Like, literally. I mean, that's how the conversation is. Girl, be quiet. You ain't quitting. Stop. You're amazing. Like, right. You know, and sometimes that's all you need, you know. And like I said, there's me and my friends, and I have amazing friends, amazing businesses, and it's just like, you never know what anyone's going through. And so you just send someone a text like, hey, girl, how you doing? Oh, my gosh, I'm just having the worst day. This contract didn't go through. This didn't happen. Girl, be quiet. You're amazing. You'll get 2 more next week, you know. And I think that is literally what has helped me. I mean, my entrepreneur friends are my closest friends. They're my best friends. And, you know, I cry when we drink and cry and, you know, whatever. And then we solve each other's problems. You know, and I think that's really what has helped me tremendously, just having like-minded individuals around. Because if you surround yourself by people who don't understand your lifestyle, as soon as you come home one day and say, oh my gosh, today was so difficult, they're going to be like, oh, well, quit, just quit. Yeah. I mean, literally, they're going to say that. And you'll be like, no, just quit. And after a while, you're going to quit. Because it's easy. It's easy to quit. That's why there's not a lot of successful people, because it's so much easier to quit than it is to continue.
It is. It sure is. I agree. Yeah, unfortunately, it is easier to quit, especially when you have people surrounding you that don't get it and say, quit.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, what didn't you have, Dominique, when you were building your business that you wish you would have had?
I think the one thing I wish I had was, I wish I had put more time into figuring out what I wanted that business to be. I hope that more people spent more time than I did. I mean, literally, I was like, oh, I'm going to start this thing, you know. I wish that I had took more time to research what I wanted to start, to figure out the pricing, figure out the processes, think about the systems. I mean, now I'm so system and process oriented with my business, but I wasn't before. So I wish I had took the time, or had someone tell me, hey, Dominique, you're starting a business. You need to have systems in place to automate things so that you're not working super hard. So that's something I wish I had in the beginning.
Okay. So now we're going to have a little fun. I'm going to complain a little, and we're going to make it through.
Okay.
So our black businessmen, they're showing us out, and that's not going to work. We have Tyler Perry, who has his homeless to success story. Eric Thomas, the motivational hip-hop preacher.
Yeah.
His homeless to PhD story. So us ladies, we've got to get our stories out and document it so African-American women in business have some inspiration when they're feeling low or searching online, maybe don't have the group of girlfriends that you have to call on to help them get through challenging times. So we need our rags to riches stories and our hero stories. So what I'd like to do just for a moment together is kind of craft your hero story or rags to riches story and get a tagline for you. Yeah, so I'm going to have you start, and then I'm going to jump in, and let's just briefly see what we can create. So what would you say is your hero story or rags to riches story? Craft it.
That's a good question. You know, I don't even know. I think it's interesting you said it. I feel like women, we need to do a better job of sharing our stories. And I literally was just having a long conversation with a friend about this last night. But I think that my story would probably start with, with me graduating with, less than a 2.3 GPA.
Good.
And somehow managing to get a job at the largest wealth management firm in the world, having the dream job, almost losing everything, house going into foreclosure, car getting repossessed, and still able to get the car back, get the house back, bounce back, create a successful business, become one of the top financial advisors in the United States, and now being able to reach thousands and thousands of people on a daily basis to inspire them financially. So I think that would probably be the story or tagline if I had to write it right.
I love it. So from under a 3.0 GPA to managing portfolios of how much were you managing?
20, 30 million. Yeah.
Yeah. I would say that's a good hero story.
Look, that alone.
Rags to riches story.
Yeah. I mean, it's when you think about it, look, now you're just saying it this way. It's like, wow, it's crazy.
It is.
It really is.
Good job.
Yeah, but it shows the power of, just being patient and, not getting too down about whatever current situation you're in, because it always changes around, and God does not, typically bring you through something to leave you in that something. I think you always come through. So.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
So switching directions for a moment, today there's a lot of talk about collaboration. What are your thoughts on collaboration instead of competition?
Oh, collaboration is awesome. I mean, I collaborate with friends and other people in my space all the time. I mean, I just left a panel. It was a finance panel, and it was me and 3 other people. We're all in the finance space. And the funny thing is, and everyone in the audience was like, "You guys are friends." We're like, "Yeah, we're actually friends. Like, we actually do projects together. We do challenges together.
Nice.
Collaborating is key." I mean, I had dinner with another one of my friends, Courtney of Think and Grow Chick, last night. Ended up being a 5-hour happy hour, because we ended up sitting there having happy hour, catching up, and creating a whole new program that we're going to launch. And so the power of collaborating is huge, especially amongst African Americans, and realizing that no, there's no reason to compete. Yes, there may be 4 of us that all do something very similar, but you're going to be more attracted to her for her story, or you're going to be more attracted to him for his story, or maybe more attracted to me for my story. And all it's doing by collaborating is allowing us to grow our reach more people, and really grow our businesses. I think that the power of collaboration is huge. I wish more people did it. And I'm really blessed and fortunate that I have been able to do it so much successfully, do it often successfully, and have been able to surround myself by people who are also open and willing to share their resources and their audience and their expertise with me. So I think it's key, and it's really one of the few ways for you to truly grow your business.
Yeah, I totally agree. And one of the things I share with business owners I work with, especially women, is how they can succeed without having to compete. And, it's funny. I'm an athlete, ex-athlete, and, when you're playing, right. When you're playing a sport, I mean, you got to keep your energy on you and what you're doing. When you take your eyes off of what you're doing, you lose ground. And so it's the same thing in business. And so one of the things that I share is how to do that by implementing what I call the power of positioning. And when you position yourself, your expertise, there's nobody like you, nobody with your footprint, just nothing. So there's something unique about your business, and there's so many sub-niches within industries. You can be the standout in that niche, in that industry. Yeah. And then you can, amplify that by leveraging the media to build your brand. So, competition is, kind of real 1999.
No one does that anymore.
No one does that anymore. So, Dominique, how do you think we can move forward and turn that growing statistic that I shared, that number of African American women in business, into successful million, multi-million, and billion-dollar businesses?
I think there needs to be a lot more education for women, and I think also just exposure to understand that you don't have to think small. I think a lot of women don't think big enough. There aren't a lot of women who are building businesses and trying to get investors or trying to scale them or trying to grow them. And I think that if more women could see that it's a possibility, I think that there would be more women who would be trying to create something larger than just a small business. A lot of women only aspire to have a small business, right? And so I've been really blessed to be around people who don't just want a small business. They want a scalable business. They want a business that can raise $1 million, you know? And I think that it just comes down to that exposure, and women, the exposure will lead women to think bigger. And that's what I think that needs to happen.
Well, I would agree with you because my favorite word is exposure.
Okay.
So we're in alignment there. So what impact would you like to make as an African American woman in business over the next 10 years?
Wow, I have a huge impact I want to make. Actually, I'm, even working now, I really want to change the face of personal finance. I really want to make money management something that comes almost natural to you, just like breathing, especially for people of color, and also making something like investing and even the very taboo conversation of money something that is not an issue anymore. So I'm in the process of building various financial technology now to help with this. But I think on a larger scale, hoping that one day, financial literacy and financial education is something that's required to be taught in school, just like math or science or all these other subjects that are almost useless once you graduate, are taught. I mean, because who knows that stuff? I know some stuff in history class, but the science stuff especially, went over my head.
Right.
That was a waste of time, honestly. I don't think about any of that stuff, but something like, understanding how to pay your bills, the basics of credit scores. Hopefully that type of stuff will be taught in schools, but I think that's going to be an uphill battle because, I'm not a conspiracy theorist or nothing, but I definitely feel like, keeping, Americans in the dark about their finances is how most financial institutions are able to be so financially successful. So I think that will be a long, long journey to try to get something like that required in schools. Right. And the interesting thing is most other countries, it is required. Financial literacy is a required course, but, the more financially literate we are, the less financial institutions will make. So, it's going to be an uphill battle, but, I would love to have an impact in all those different aspects, as I go throughout my career. That's the goal.
Excellent. So do you have a suggestion for Black women in business on how to approach or seek a mentor? Somebody like yourself and many of the women that were a part of this interview series, they're busy. They've got full lives. They're busy. Do you have a piece of advice on how to seek a mentor?
Yeah, I think you got to be kind of strategic about it. I have to say, the people that have ended up making me their mentor, they've almost forced themselves in my life, which is weird. Literally. One of my mentees, I won't say her name, but I don't know how I think I spoke at my school. She emails me and then keeps emailing me. We end up on a call. We're all on a call. We keep, somehow she keeps getting on my schedule. Next thing you know, she graduates. I'm at her graduation with a gift in balloons. And I'm just like, how did this girl force her way into my life?
I love it.
It was funny, and it's funny, but it's like we had this connection. But she really, when I look back on it, I don't remember how this happened. But she forced her way in, and and it worked. And I'm not saying you have to be aggressive or annoying, but be persistent. And I think that that's what she did that a lot of other people who may have, you know, you do a speaking engagement and someone at the end is like, oh my gosh, will you be my mentor? Like, no, I don't know you. Like, we have to have some sort of connection. But this girl, she didn't even do that. She just like slid her way into my inbox. Next thing you know, I'm taking her out to lunch. Now I'm out to dinner with her. Now I'm with her family at the graduation. Like, how did you get into my life? And, you know, she realized that she wanted to have me around, and somehow it worked. So, you know, it was interesting, and I look back on it every now and then when I laugh, and I'm just like, how did you get, you know, in my life? And we have our monthly calls or whatever. But I think that being persistent is key, because most people will say, I want you to be my mentor, but they won't take any of the necessary steps to develop that relationship. It's almost like dating in a way, you know? And people, you know, they say they want to, but then, you know, you don't hear from them, and I ain't gonna follow up with you. You need me, you know?
You need
so
me.
I think that, yeah, it's the persistence there, that just be persistent, and you can force your way into people's lives too. So,
Great nugget.
Yeah.
So, Dominique, what are your 5 success tips?
Well, let's see. I would say to start, I would start with this one because I think it's one of the things that has first, you know, really just helped me is, don't fear failure, fear regret. And that's something I literally read every single day. Instead of worrying about failing, I just want to I don't want to wake up at 70 and wish I had done things that I didn't do. I'll say also just starting your business in general, just save money and save it often. Just in general, I feel like African Americans and people in general just don't save. And it can really hinder you when you're trying to build your business or whatever it may be. And I would say also just being successful, always remember your why. There's going to be days when you want to quit, but if you can remember why you started and why you're doing this thing, it will allow you to keep pushing. Another would be surrounding yourself with like-minded people. It's very easy to surround yourself with people who aren't doing anything, people who will allow you to quit. But surround yourself with people who are smarter than you, who are richer than you, who are more educated than you, who are further along than you, and you will consistently want to be more like them. And then last but not least, I would
You're breaking
say
up, sweetheart. Say that again.
Oh, I'm sorry. And last but not least, I would say just remember, you know, kind of remember or contain, you know, remember who you are and why you, not why you do what you do, but just maintain your character. Because as a business owner, it's very easy to have other people get you out of your character, to be tempted to do things that are not right or whatever it may be. And I think just remember that people are watching, or do things as if people are watching, God is watching. And you want to make sure that whatever you do in your business, or however you treat people in your business, do so as if, you know, someone else could do this to you, you know. And I just want to, you know, I try to keep a very, you know, positive and ethically moral business, because you wouldn't want, you know, anyone else to do certain things to you. I think those are really the key to success for me. So.
Excellent. And can you recommend 2 books every woman should read?
Yeah. Right now, these are 2 books that I recently read. One is, Your Yes Year by Shonda Rhimes. I'm really, loving that book. And the other one is it's a book. It's actually called, it's a long title. It's called You're a Badass: How to Stop Doubting Your Greatness and Start Living an Awesome Life. It's by Jen Sincero. And that book is amazing. And it's one of those books where you read it and you just kind of keep it on your shelf and you just pick it up every now and then and read it. Because I think a lot of times as women, you forget how amazing you are. And it's extremely easy to start doubting yourself. And it's like, no, you're a badass. You're great. Keep doing what you're doing. And those are 2 books that I think are just great for living and creating the lifestyle that you desire.
Love it. Love it. Dominique, thank you so much for taking the time to give back, to share your journey, to be so candid, and just to share your journey as an African-American woman in business. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thanks for listening. Hopefully it helps somebody.
It will. A few somebodies. Is there a last nugget you'd like to leave of inspiration?
No. Like, I think really just whatever you do in life, just like I said, don't fear failure, fear regret. We just want to make sure that we're living our purpose and doing what we're meant to do here and not worrying about failing and just worry about, waking up one day and wishing you had done. And we don't want those to happen. So just don't fear failure, fear regret. It's kind of how I live my life.
Excellent. Where can listeners get more information about you and what you do?
So you can check out my website. It's DominiqueBroadway.com. If you can't spell Dominique or Broadway, just if you Google me, I'm pretty easy to find. Or you can check me out on Twitter at Miss Finance Coach, on Instagram, Dominique Broadway, also on Facebook at Miss Finance Coach. So.
Excellent. Well, thank you for joining the show. And everyone remember, lead with value and the revenue will follow.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.